I never agreed with the narrative that training your abs and core with dedicated exercises would be a waste of time, even though having visible abs is very different than training them, which means that you can do a million sit ups, but your abs aren't going to magically appear just because of the sit ups. Your abs, or having visible abs, has everything to do with your body fat percentage and where you genetically store your fat. So in order for your abs to become more visible, you probably have to be in a calorie deficit to decrease your body fat percentage. And it hasn't much to do with training them, but training your core specifically is so important for training in general, because your core is the foundation of your body. It's the base. It's where everything comes together. And training them through dedicated exercises means that all the small stabilizing muscles get a chance to become stronger, which in turn will help you with preventing injury and being able to perform certain exercises better. And to me, having a strong core means that my entire body feels strong. It influences every single exercise that I do, and therefore I love training my abs and my core with dedicated exercises, and I'll continue to do so. A couple of months ago, I looked like this, and now I am a lot lighter than I was. And I want to talk about how I maintain that level of shreddedness. I think a lot of the times, fitness related, but also in life, the pursuit of something takes a lot more effort and energy and time and dedication than the maintaining of it. So for me, when I was trying to get this shredded, it took a lot of time. I had to be mindful of my choices. So I didn't track my intake or my deficit during this phase. If I did, I think it would have cost me less time to achieve my end result, but I don't care because I'm not in a rush, and I knew that I just didn't want to deal with having to weigh my food or anything. I tracked in the past. I have quite a good idea of what's in food just by estimating, and that's fine by me. I don't really care. Probably some weeks I was at maintenance, and then some weeks I was in a deficit, which caused me over time to lose weight. But during this time, I was mindful of my steps. I was tracking my steps. I was mindful of the additional cardio that I did. I was very mindful of my recovery, of my strain, which basically shows how hard I was training that day. And I just wanted to make sure that I was putting in effort, that I was training hard, even though I was in that deficit. Now, however, I don't really do any of that. So I'm still mindful of my recovery, of my strain. I try to make sure that my steps are in check, but I don't have to do any of those things because I'm not trying to be in a deficit and I'm not trying to lose any more weight. So being at maintenance for me is always a lot easier than it is to be in a deficit. The thing is though, there are some things that I don't experience, and that makes being at maintenance for me a lot easier, and that makes staying shredded for me a lot easier. And that is that I've never, for example, experienced food noise. I know that there are people, if, for example, a plate of food would now be going around in this room, they would be very much focused on that plate of food. And even though I would speak to the camera right now to you, I would be in my head, I would thinking about where that plate of food is, where will there still be food for me when it arrives here. I don't have those thoughts. I don't worry about what I'm having for dinner. If I didn't have breakfast yet, I'm not concerned about any of those things, which makes maintaining your weight a lot easier because I'm just not really food obsessed, even though I love food and I love creating healthy food and I love making meals. I'm not obsessed with food in my head. Another thing that I also think helps a lot with maintaining my weight or maintaining a certain level of shreddedness is that when I grew up, we just got served pretty plain food that's pretty typical in the Netherlands. We would just get boiled potatoes, boiled vegetables, and then a source of protein, so maybe a bit of chicken or some pork often. And that was not exciting, it wasn't very tasty, it was just what we ate. And that is something that I grew up with, a mindset. So now when I'm making dinner, even though I try to make it more exciting to me, I've just been grown up with eating pretty plain foods. So I think that for me, it's very normal to not be overly excited for all the meals that I'm having every single day. I just see it as 70% of the time I'm eating healthy, and then 30% of the time I'm getting something extra nice or extra special. And I think that also just made my taste buds evolve in a way that I just appreciate plain food. So even though right now my food is definitely more flavorful than what I had growing up, I still eat very basic ingredients. I just prepare them a lot nicer, and I have more than 3 ingredients, which also already makes a plate a lot more exciting. But still, my food is therefore quite simple. And the simpler that your intake is, often the more easy it also is to control what's in it and to not add any hidden calories or hidden sugars or any of those things. I think a lot of those treats can be trained. For example, when I have something sweet after dinner, I will start craving it more. I'll start craving it more. I'll start craving it more. But then if I try to break that habit by not having anything sweet after dinner, which sucks for then 3-4 days, but usually within a week I've broken that habit and then I don't really crave anything sweet after dinner anymore. But I also realize that that's not as easy for everyone. As I said, I don't experience food noise, for example. If you do, I can't say anything about it because I don't know how intense that is to live with, but obviously it makes things a lot harder. But still, I think knowing that maintaining something is a lot easier than it is to work towards something is very nice, because yes, it takes time and effort to reach a certain physique, maybe if you want to lose weight, but it is so worth it, because not only will you achieve the goal that you want to achieve, but maintaining it will also be a lot easier than it is to actually achieve it. If you're like learning about your body, if you enjoy working with actual health data, then I think you might like the Whoop device. It's what I used to lose weight, just because some of the data that you receive is quite beneficial. For example, as I said, the daily steps, that's a bit of an easier one, but also it helps me to estimate how my cardio is going. It keeps track of my heart rate, so I know exactly in what zone I'm running, which helps a lot, especially if you do more cardio, because then you tend to want to do heart rate zone 1 to 2 training, so it's not too fatiguing. I help it to track my workouts, it tracks my sleep, it tells me how recovered I am, how hard I'm training, and it's just all data that you can use to make this a journey that is easier to stay consistent with and easier to maintain. So if you want to try it, they have their Black Friday sale now, which is the best sale that they do. They don't really do sales, I believe, but they do it for Black Friday. So if you want to go ahead and check it out, I'll leave it in the description box down below. That being said, thanks for getting ready with me. I am about to go on a run, so this is my pre-run breakfast, which is fairly light but still has some carbs for some energy. I have 2 poached eggs with some arugula, some wild berries and avocado, and then 2 slices of walnut and fig bread with some butter, and I topped it with some salt. Honestly, best feeling ever. I can wash my hair again, but that's fine. I have a question, and my question is, if you are someone who loves to participate in challenges, what should the challenge duration be for you? Because I've been doing some 30-day challenges on my follow along channel. I have been doing some workout programs in my app that are a little bit longer, but I want to find a sweet spot because sometimes I feel like 30 days is too short to actually be in the habit of a new challenge. But for example, a 75 hard is sometimes feels so long that it's hard to start, but that also might be the point. So I'm kind of unsure, but I do want to create something special for January, and I want to do it in sort of a challenge form. So instead of me just trying to come up with something, I wanted to open up the conversation and ask you, if you are someone who loves to participate in challenges, then what is the duration that you feel is helping you to build new habits, but it's not so large or big that it almost feels too impossible to start? Anyways, today is an upper body session, a back session to be exact. I haven't been doing many back sessions, but it is my go-to if I want to train but do something that feels relatively safe. I have been sick for a couple of days, and not like a body sickness, but I ate something bad kind of sickness. And so I wanted to do something that was a little bit easy for me, but still got my body moving. I'm all recovered now, by the way, just so you know, but I still wanted to kind of ease into training. So for this back session, I decided to do 2 vertical pulls and then 2 horizontal pulls. The vertical pulls that I decided to do are the chin-ups and then the pull-overs. And then for the horizontal pulls, I wanted to do the gorilla row, and I did inverted rows. To get better at chin-ups, you want to practice them at least twice a week. Make it the first exercise that you do, and try to be around the 3 to maybe 6 reps. If you can do 3 to 6 unassisted with perfect form, then you can start adding resistance. If you cannot do them unassisted, then either do them assisted, so add a resistance band to the machine, or you could do negatives, which is where you jump up and then lower yourself as slowly as you can. I think that one of the most valuable skills that you can have as a human being is being okay with being a beginner at something. Because if you are okay with being a beginner, or with starting over, or with learning a new skill from scratch, or just being okay with failing, technically, if that's something that you are okay with, then you can achieve so many things. There are so many opportunities that you can explore. Training is exactly the same. Every single time you'll try a new exercise, you will be a beginner at it. Training is a skill. It's an art form almost. You have to practice in order to get better. It sucks. It is part of the journey. It is the beauty of it. If you practice enough, if you get enough repetitions in, then you'll become better, and then things will become easier and they will look much more smooth. Before this exercise, you saw me doing the kettlebell gorilla row. With the kettlebell gorilla row, which is a bent over row variation and horizontal pull, you want to keep your core as steady as you possibly can, and then row the kettlebells one by one. I don't actually put them back on the floor. I keep them hovering off the floor. It makes it a little bit more intense, but it's a great exercise for your entire core, as well, obviously, as for your back. And then I'm moving on to the second vertical pull of the day, which is the dumbbell pullover. The dumbbell pullover is an exercise that I like to do in the medium to higher rep range. It is a bit of a tricky one because I don't want to go too heavy and then risk me not being able to hold the dumbbell behind my head, if that makes sense. So I usually stick within the 8 to 12 reps just to be sure that the weight isn't too heavy and I can control it. You want to lower the weight by lowering it behind your head and looking for that maximum stretch in your lats. And then you really want to squeeze your lats to initiate the movement and to pull the dumbbell over yourself. Then we're doing some inverted rows on the Smith machine. I'm doing a wide grip, and with this exercise it's basically a bent over barbell row but then reverse. So instead of pulling the weight towards you, you're pulling yourself towards the bar. You can make this exercise harder by elevating your feet or by obviously adding weight, for example, by wearing a weighted vest. But for me, I'm still good just doing this exercise like this. If this is too hard for you to control, then what you can do is you can bring your head up higher. So make sure that you position the bar higher, and then the exercise becomes a little bit lighter. I have a shoot planned for all the mobility and core exercises that I want to film and add into my app. I'm just a one-man team today, but I feel like I can definitely pull this off. What I'm doing is I'm recording myself performing all the exercises that I want to add into the app. There are about 300 exercises that I want to add, so it will be an intense day physically for me, but it's fine. I'm very excited to add them. But what I do is I shoot them from 2 point of views so that after 1 rep, I'll switch to the other point of view so you can see it from different angles, especially with mobility exercises. That is really helpful for when you try to follow along. This is usually what ends up happening. So I have some plain old oats that I brought with me. I just added some boiling water to it. And then I have a nice cappuccino. That is very nice. And then this is what the setup is looking like. So this is where I'm standing. And then I have 2 camera angles here so that after 1 rep I can switch angles. I had to pick this one up this morning because I only have 1 camera, but I wanted to get the same one so it looks very much similar when you're actually watching it. And then they're also filming from the same height, which took a bit of time to set up, but I think I can show you a sneak peek. And so this is what the actual video is looking like from the first angle, and then I also have the more front angle. And then I have my laptop right there with the teleprompter with the exercises, and then I can read them and I know exactly what to do. I just finished the last exercise. I am so happy. I am going to pack my stuff real quick. I have 15 more minutes. And then I still have time to bring back the camera, which is nice because then I don't have to do it tomorrow morning. And then I'm going back to the office because my mom is coming to town and we're going to get some Dutch pancakes, which I'm so excited for. It's like the perfect thing to eat after a day of filming. I was fully under the impression that she would have been here last week, so I was waiting, and then it was like 8 and I called her and I was like, where are you? She's like, I'm not coming, I'm coming next week. So I have been looking forward to getting these pancakes for 2 weeks now. But first I'm going to change into something comfy, and then I need to grab all my stuff, which is quite a lot.